Hi, guys. So day 2 of the Court of Appeal hearing in the cartel case as to whether there should be a retrial in the matter is now behind us. What happened on day 2? There was a lot of talk about constitutional rights. I want to focus on that, as well as to focus on one of the most important rights I think that's going to come into play here. That is, you have a constitutional right to have a fair trial by an independent and impartial tribunal within a reasonable time. So what I want you to focus on is that you have a right to a fair trial within a reasonable time. Now, the Jamaican justice system is said to be plagued by delay, all right? You no doubt have heard about some of the cases in which cases just take years to come to trial, and there are all kinds of problems that can be associated with that. Witnesses can decide to go missing. Sometimes I've been in a case where the main witness actually died because of how long it took for the matter to actually go to trial and for that trial to start. So there's been a lot of talk about this over the years, but in the past couple of years in particular, there have been a series of embarrassing judgments in which we have really seen how bad this situation has been. So let me just give you a couple of examples, and believe me, you actually have more. So there was a case called Ray Morgan. This case went all the way to the Court of Appeal. I beg your pardon, it went beyond the Court of Appeal. It actually went to the Privy Council. The Privy Council ruled on this issue last year. Now, Ray Morgan had been sentenced in 2011, you know. Now, he had appealed his sentence, but because of a series of what were called administrative errors, the man filing paper them, they went to the wrong place, they didn't go to the place they were supposed to go to, and because of all of that, by the time his case came before the Jamaican Court of Appeal, it was 2021. The man didn't serve him sentence. Now you need to understand what that means. When you are appealing your sentence, you're appealing a conviction or you're appealing your sentence, you're saying, hey, I don't think what happened to me was fair. What you're hoping for is that the appellate court, the appeal court is going to look at you, agree with you, and maybe release you early. But because of the length of time it took for the Ray Morgan case to come to the Court of Appeal, he did not have that opportunity. The man did done there in a jail the whole time. He served out the entire sentence. In that case, the Privy Council said he had suffered a serious miscarriage of justice. Another example, and this case also was ruled on by the Court of Appeal in 2023, a case called Raquel West. So Ray Morgan, Privy Council also ruled on this in 2023. 2023, the Court of Appeal rules on a case called Raquel West. Now, this was a case in which Mr. West had been sentenced in 2013. He had appealed, but it was 9 years before the Court of Appeal got the trial transcripts. Now, this is important. You can't hear and decide on appeal. You can't look at whether something was wrong in the trial unless you know what happened in the trial. So this is why the trial transcripts are important. The trial transcripts are a written record of everything that happened in the trial. So you get this big bundle, well, soft copy as well now, but you certainly can get this big bundle of everything, every single word that was said during the trial, and you need that so you can comb through it and decide if in fact there were any mistakes that were made at trial. But that can't happen if the trial transcripts don't reach the Court of Appeal. And the case of Raquel West, it was 9 years before the Court of Appeal got the transcripts. And the Court of Appeal in that case said there had been a clear breach of its constitutional right to a hearing within a reasonable time. Then we had a case called Dwight Campbell. Again, this was a case that the Court of Appeal ruled on in 2023. Seeing a pattern here, I'm just giving you a couple of examples, and believe me, there are more. Now, in this case, in 2013, Campbell had been sentenced to life in prison. He had appealed. 2022 was when the Court of Appeal got part of the transcripts from the trial. And in that case, the Court of Appeal said there had been no dispute that there was a breach of his right to have his case heard by a superior court, that's Court of Appeal, within a reasonable time. They also said, imagine a court saying this, that the only appropriate remedy in this case was for them to publicly acknowledge and publicly apologize to Campbell for what they call the egregious delay in the matter. So you have a little bit of context now in terms of the importance of delay and the fact that there's really a microscope on our courts right now in terms of how long cases are taking. I should just point out that the current Chief Justice, Brian Sykes, has made reducing delay really one of his major goals in dealing with the court system, and he has been having some impact. Another time we can talk about some of what we've seen. Nonetheless, you have that context, so let's look now at the Vybz Kartel case. The men, Kartel and his co-accused, were arrested in 2011 after Clive Lizard Williams disappeared, and they were suspected of having killed him. Now, the trial itself took place in 2014. They were convicted, as you know, they were sentenced. And in 2024, the appeal is just coming to a conclusion because the Court of Appeal, as I said, is now deciding if there should be a retrial in the matter. So they've already been in custody since 2011. The appeal itself has taken 10 years. And the question that is to be asked is, if a retrial is ordered in this matter, how long that going to take? How long will it take in a case in which the initial trial, the first trial itself, was, the judge said this in the hearing, that the trial itself was one of the most complex we have seen in Jamaica's history. It was also one of the longest, 64 days for a trial. So if you're going to be talking about a retrial now, you're going to be talking about all those complexities again. You're going to be talking about that length of time again. You're going to be asking the question as to whether or not the witnesses are going to be available. Is the main witness going to be available? And importantly, is the main witness for the prosecution against Kartel and the others, is he going to be available in person so that they can cross-examine him if they want? Or would the prosecution be relying on a paper statement that he gave? And of course, that's really important, because if you're relying on a paper statement and the paper statement is making allegations about me, how do I cross-examine the paper statement? Clearly, I can't. So all of these are going to be factors that are going to be considered. And I can tell you that just based on how the questions coming from the judges, they are very, very alive. They're very, very aware and cognizant of this issue of delay. And I think it's actually going to be a major, major issue in deciding this particular case. So there you have it, delay, concern about breach of constitutional rights, lots more to come. This isn't over by a long shot. I'll be bringing you updates as we go through the week.